I froze, my breath catching in my throat as his hand slid lower, heavy and hot against my skin, and whispered, "If you're really straight, Ty, then why is your heart pounding faster than mine?" Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you love stories about confusing roommates, undeniable chemistry, and that thin line between just friends and something more, you are going to love this new series. Before we jump into the drama, please do me a huge favor. Smash that like button, leave a comment below telling me if you think Ty is actually clueless or just in denial, and subscribe. Ready? Let's get into the story. Part 1, the boundary line. I lived by a very strict set of rules. Rule number 1, keep the apartment clean. Rule number 2, do not fall behind on my architecture thesis. And rule number 3, the most important rule of all, do not fall in love with Tyler Week. It sounded simple. It should have been simple. Tyler was my roommate, my best friend since freshman year, and the star quarterback of our university's football team. He was loud, messy, and aggressively, painfully straight. He dated cheerleaders. He dated sorority girls. He talked about women with the kind of casual confidence that made my stomach twist in a knot of jealousy I refused to acknowledge. But recently, Tyler had developed a habit that was making rule number 3 impossible to follow. It started on a Tuesday. It was late, maybe 2 a.m. I was hunched over my drafting table in the living room, trying to finish a render for my final project. My back ached, my eyes were burning, and I was running on nothing but caffeine and panic. "Leo, you still up?" I didn't turn around. I recognized the sleepy rasp of Tyler's voice instantly. "Deadline tomorrow, Ty. Go back to sleep." I heard the heavy thud of his footsteps approaching, not retreating. A second later, I felt a weight settle against my back. Tyler wrapped his arms around my shoulders from behind, dropping his chin onto the top of my head. He was warm, like a furnace, and he smelled like sleep and that expensive body wash he used. "You work too hard," he mumbled into my hair, his voice vibrating against my skull. "You're gonna burn out, bro." "I'm fine," I said, my voice tighter than I intended. My heart did that stupid fluttery thing it always did when he got too close. Personal space, Ty. Usually this was the part where he'd laugh, call me a stiff, and back off. But tonight, he didn't move. Instead, his arms tightened around my chest. "Nah," he yawned. "You're comfortable." And then his hand moved. It wasn't aggressive. It was slow, almost absent-minded. His large, rough hand slid from my shoulder down to the center of my chest. He pressed his palm flat against my sternum, his fingers splaying out over my pectoral muscle. I stopped breathing. "You've been hitting the gym?" he asked, his tone shifting from sleepy to curious. His fingers flexed, kneading the muscle through my thin t-shirt. "You feel solid." "I swim," I managed to choke out, staring blindly at my computer screen. "Swimming builds muscle. You know that." "Yeah," he murmured. His thumb brushed over the curve of my pec, a slow, deliberate stroke that sent a jolt of electricity straight to my groin. "But I didn't know you were this cut underneath all those oversized hoodies. Why do you hide it?" "I'm not hiding anything," I lied. I was absolutely hiding it. I was hiding everything. "It's a shame," Tyler whispered. He pressed harder, his hand seemingly glued to my chest now. He wasn't hugging me anymore. He was feeling me up. If I had a chest like this, I'd never wear a shirt. The air in the room suddenly felt thick, charged with a tension that made my skin prickle. This wasn't normal roommate behavior. Straight guys didn't stand behind their best friends at 2 a.m., fondling their chests and complimenting their muscle definition. Did they? "Ty," I said, trying to sound firm but failing miserably. "You're tired. Go to bed." He lingered for a second longer, his hand giving my chest one final, possessive squeeze, before he finally pulled away. Yeah. Night, Leo." He padded back to his room, leaving me sitting there in the dark, my heart hammering against my ribs exactly where his hand had been. I thought that was a one-time thing. A weird, sleep-deprived glitch in the Matrix. But I was wrong. It was just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, the glitch became a feature. If I was cooking dinner, Tyler would squeeze past me in our narrow kitchen, his hand lingering on my waist or chest unnecessarily long. If we were watching a movie on the couch, he wouldn't sit on the other end anymore. He'd sprawl out, his legs thrown over mine, or worse, he'd rest his head on my lap, looking up at me with those damn puppy dog eyes. But the chest touching, that was his favorite. One afternoon, I walked out of the bathroom after a shower, a towel wrapped around my waist. I thought I was alone. I walked into the living room and froze. Tyler was there, sitting on the couch, his phone in hand. He looked up. His eyes widened. I instinctively crossed my arms over my bare chest. I thought you were at practice. Coach cut it short, Tyler said. His voice sounded different. Deeper. Hoarser. His gaze dropped from my face to my arms, and then to my chest. He didn't look away. He stared. Openly. Hungrily. Right. Well, I'm gonna go get dressed, I said, stepping toward my room. Wait. Tyler stood up. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, blocking my path. He was bigger than me, broader, taller, and standing this close, I felt swallowed by his presence. What is it? I asked, gripping my towel tighter. You have a bruise, he said. He reached out, his fingers brushing against the skin just below my collarbone. Right here. I looked down. There was a faint, yellowish mark where my bag strap had dug in earlier. It's nothing. Just my heavy bag. Does it hurt? No, Ty. It's fine. Let me check. Before I could protest, his hand was on me again. But this time, there was no shirt to act as a barrier. Skin on skin. His palm was calloused from years of handling a football, rough and hot against my damp skin. He traced the bruise with his thumb, but he didn't stop there. His hand slid down, cupping my pec, his fingers grazing my nipple. My entire body went rigid. A sharp intake of breath hissed through my teeth. Tyler's eyes snapped to mine. They were dark, unreadable. He didn't pull away. If anything, he pressed closer. You're so tense, he murmured. Relax, Leo. I can't relax when you're touching me like that, I whispered, the truth slipping out before I could stop it. Like what? He challenged softly. He stepped into my space, his thighs brushing against mine. His other hand came up to rest on my other side, effectively trapping me. Like a friend checking on a friend? Friends don't look at each other the way you're looking at me right now. I shot back, my voice trembling. He smirked, a slow, dangerous curling of his lips. And how am I looking at you? Like you're hungry. The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second, replaced by something raw, something that looked terrifyingly like panic. But he buried it instantly. Maybe I am, he said, his voice low. I haven't had lunch yet. He patted my chest, a sharp, stinging slap that broke the spell, and stepped around me. Put some clothes on, dude. We're ordering pizza. I stood there in the middle of the living room, shivering despite the heat, watching his retreating back. He was gaslighting me. He had to be. He was playing some kind of sick game, testing boundaries just to see how far he could push me before I snapped. Or, he didn't know he was doing it. That was the scarier option. That Tyler, the straightest guy in the universe, was subconsciously drawn to me and had no idea why. The breaking point for part one of this mess came on a Friday night. We had been invited to a party at the frat house down the street. I wanted to stay in and read. Tyler wanted to go get wasted. Guess who won? By midnight, the house was packed. The bass was shaking the floorboards, the air smelled like cheap beer and sweat, and I was miserable. I was leaning against the kitchen counter, nursing a lukewarm soda, watching Tyler hold court in the center of the room. He had a girl on his arm. Sarah, a blonde junior who had been chasing him all semester. She was hanging off him, whispering in his ear, her hand resting on his bicep. I looked away, a bitter taste rising in my throat. This was reality. The touching, the staring, the late-night confusion, it was all in my head. Tyler belonged to this world. He belonged to girls like Sarah. I decided to leave. I pushed myself off the counter and started heading toward the back door, needing fresh air, needing to escape. Leo, hey, wait up. I didn't stop. I pushed through the crowd, stepping out into the cool night air of the backyard. It was empty out here, quiet. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the stinging in my eyes. The back door slammed open. Where are you going? Tyler demanded. He stumbled slightly as he walked down the steps. He was drunk, but not sloppy. Just loose. We just got here. You just got here, I said, turning to face him. I'm going home. Why? He reached me, grabbing my arm to stop me. His grip was strong, inescapable. Is it Sarah? Did she say something? No, Tyler. I don't want to be here. I tried to pull my arm away, but he wouldn't let go. Go back inside. She's waiting for you. Screw Sarah, he muttered. I froze. What? I said screw her. She's boring. Tyler stepped closer, swaying slightly. She keeps trying to touch me, but she doesn't. She doesn't feel right. My heart started to pound. You're drunk, Ty. I'm not that drunk. He looked at me, really looked at me, his eyes searching my face in the moonlight. I was looking for you. The whole time she was talking, I was just looking for you. Ty, why do you always run away? He whispered. He let go of my arm, but only so he could bring both hands up to my chest. There it was again. That touch. He splayed his fingers wide, covering my heart. Through the fabric of my hoodie, I knew he could feel how fast it was beating. It was betraying me. "You feel good," Tyler slurred slightly, his head dropping forward until his forehead rested against mine. "Solid. Real." "Tyler, stop," I pleaded, my voice barely a whisper. "You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing." His hands tightened, grabbing handfuls of my hoodie, pulling me closer until our bodies were flush against each other. "I'm touching my roommate, my best friend, who is surprisingly ripped and smells really, really good." He nuzzled his nose against my neck, inhaling deeply. I was going to die. I was going to die right here in this frat house backyard. "Ty, please," I gasped, my hands coming up to push at his shoulders, but my resolve was crumbling. "You're straight. Remember? You love girls." Tyler pulled back just enough to look me in the eye. His gaze dropped to my lips, then back up to my eyes. The hunger was there again, raw and undeniable. "Yeah," he whispered, his voice trembling with confusion. "I am. I swear I am." He moved his hand from my chest to my throat, his thumb tracing the line of my jaw, his touch agonizingly gentle. "So why?" he breathed, leaning in until his lips were millimeters from mine. "Can't I stop thinking about what your chest feels like under my hands? Why do I want to rip this hoodie off and see if you feel as good as I imagine?" I stared at him, my mouth dry, my entire world tilting on its axis. "Tell me to stop, Leo," he warned, his voice dropping to a growl. "Tell me to stop touching you, and I swear to God I will." I opened my mouth to say the word. Stop. It was the only logical thing to do. It was the only way to save our friendship, to save myself from the inevitable heartbreak when he woke up sober and realized his mistake. But the word didn't come out. Instead, I looked at his lips, then up into his dark, desperate eyes. And I made the biggest mistake of my life. "Don't," I whispered. Tyler didn't need to be told twice. His hand tangled in the front of my hoodie, and he shoved me backward, slamming me up against the siding of the house. The air left my lungs in a rush, but before I could inhale, Tyler was there, pressing his body against mine, his knee driving between my legs, his hands claiming my chest like he owned it. End of Part 1. Part 2, the morning after myth. The wood siding of the frat house dug into my back, but I barely felt it. The only thing I could feel, the only thing that existed in the entire universe, was Tyler. He was a wall of heat against me, his chest heaving, his knee pressed firmly between my legs, effectively pinning me in place. His hands were under my hoodie now. He hadn't just stopped at the fabric. He had pushed it up, his rough palms sliding directly onto the skin of my waist, his thumbs digging into my obliques. "Leo," he groaned, his voice wrecked. He leaned in, his nose brushing against mine. The smell of cheap beer was there. Yes, but underneath it was just Thai. Musk, laundry detergent, and the terrifying scent of desire. I closed my eyes, tilting my head back, surrendering. "Do it," I screamed silently. "Just kiss me and ruin our lives." His lips grazed the corner of my mouth. His hands slid upward, inching toward my chest, his fingers seeking that same spot he was so obsessed with. Creak. The back door swung open with a violent bang. "Tyler? Babe, are you out here?" Sarah's voice cut through the air like a serrated knife. We sprang apart as if we'd been electrocuted. Tyler stumbled back, nearly tripping over a tree root, while I yanked my hoodie down so fast I nearly ripped the fabric. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Thud, thud, thud. Loud enough that I was sure Sarah could hear it from the porch. "Ty." Sarah stepped into the moonlight, squinting. "Oh, there you are. I've been looking everywhere." She paused, her eyes flickering to me. "Oh, hey Leo. I didn't see you there." I couldn't speak. I was trembling, my skin still burning where Tyler touched me. Tyler cleared his throat. It sounded like a car engine stalling. "Yeah. Hey, we were just getting air. It's hot inside." "It is." Sarah giggled, oblivious to the fact that she had just interrupted a tectonic shift in the Earth's crust. She walked over and looped her arm through Tyler's. "Come back in. They're playing that song you like." Tyler didn't look at me. He looked at the ground, his jaw clenched so hard a muscle feathered in his cheek. He looked guilty. "Yeah," Tyler muttered. "Coming." He let her pull him toward the door. But right before he stepped across the threshold, he stopped. He looked back over his shoulder. His eyes were dark, swirling with a mix of confusion and something that looked painfully like regret. "You coming, Leo?" "No," I managed to say, my voice hollow. "I'm walking home." He hesitated, looking like he wanted to shake Sarah off and come back to me. But then the door opened wider, the music blasted out, and the moment died. "Okay," he said softly. "See you at home." I didn't sleep. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the sensation of his hands on my skin on a loop. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt his weight against me. I heard him come in around 3 a.m. I heard him stumble down the hallway. I held my breath, waiting to see if he would stop at my door, if he would turn the handle, if he would finish what we started. He paused outside my room. I saw the shadow of his feet under the door gap. My heart slammed against my throat. He stood there for a full minute. Silence. Then I heard a heavy sigh, and his footsteps retreated to his own room. The door clicked shut. I let out a breath that felt like a sob. The next morning, the apartment was quiet. Dangerously quiet. I walked into the kitchen at 10 a.m., needing coffee more than I needed oxygen. To my horror, Tyler was already there. He was standing at the stove, making eggs. He was shirtless, wearing low-hanging gray sweatpants that showcased the V-line of his hips. His back muscles rippled as he whisked the eggs with unnecessary aggression. "Morning," he said, not turning around. His voice was tight. "Morning," I replied, moving to the coffee maker. I tried to keep my distance, hugging the far counter. "Headache?" he asked. "No, I didn't drink much." "Right." He laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "I did. God, I was wasted." My hand froze on the coffee mug. "Here it comes." The excuse. Tyler turned around, leaning back against the stove, crossing his arms over his broad, bare chest. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He was staring intensely at the toaster. "Man, that punch was spiked or something," he said, shaking his head. "I don't even remember half the night. Everything's a blur after midnight." He was lying. I knew him better than anyone. When Tyler lied, he tapped his left foot. He was tapping it now. "You don't remember?" I asked, turning to face him. "Nothing. Bits and pieces," he shrugged. "I remember Sarah being annoying. I remember coming outside for air." He paused, his gaze finally flicking to mine for a millisecond before darting away. Did I do anything stupid? I feel like I was all over the place. I stared at him. He was giving me an out. He was offering me a chance to pretend it never happened, to sweep the near kiss and the groping under the rug of "I was drunk." Rule number 3. Do not fall in love with Tyler. Corollary to rule number 3. Do not make things weird. "No." I lied, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "You were just drunk. You stumbled around a bit. Sarah took you back inside." Tyler's shoulders visibly sagged with relief. "Okay, good. That's good." He turned back to the eggs, but I saw it. His hand went up to his own chest, rubbing the spot where his heart was, as if it hurt. For the next 3 days, we played a game called Avoidance. I spent all my time in the architecture studio. Tyler spent all his time at the gym or the library. When we were in the apartment, we circled each other like magnets with the same polarity, repelling whenever we got too close. But the tension didn't go away. It fermented. It grew thicker, heavier, until the air in the apartment felt suffocating. Tyler stopped touching me. Completely. He wouldn't even brush past me in the hallway. If I handed him the remote, he'd make sure our fingers didn't graze. It was worse than the touching. The absence of his touch felt like a physical coldness. Wednesday evening, I came home early. My thesis advisor had torn my draft apart, and I was in a foul mood. I threw my bag on the floor and walked into the living room, intending to crash on the couch. Tyler was there. He was doing push-ups on the living room floor. He was sweating, his skin glistening, his breathing rhythmic and harsh. 98, 99, 100. He collapsed onto the carpet, groaning. He rolled onto his back, his chest heaving violently as he tried to catch his breath. I should have walked away. I should have gone to my room. But I was tired, and I was angry, and I was sick of the game. I walked over and sat on the couch, right next to where he was lying on the floor. "You're going to tear a pec if you keep going like that," I said, opening a textbook I had no intention of reading. Tyler froze. He looked up at me from the floor, sweat dripping down his temple. "Just blowing off steam." "You've been blowing off steam for 3 days, Ty. You've been to the gym twice a day." "Got a lot on my mind," he grunted. He sat up, wiping his face with the hem of his shirt. This action exposed his abs, and I forced myself not to look. "Like what?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just stared at me. He was sitting on the floor between my spread legs, looking up. It was a vulnerable position, but his eyes were anything but vulnerable. They were calculating. "You're wearing that shirt again," he said suddenly. I looked down. I was wearing a tight black compression shirt I usually wore under my sweaters. I had taken the sweater off at the studio because the heating was broken. "So, it's tight," he murmured. "It's compression gear, Ty. It's supposed to be. It shows everything." He shifted, turning his body fully toward me. He was still on the floor, but he reached out. His hand hovered over my knee. He hesitated, his fingers trembling slightly. The drunk excuse wasn't available right now. He was stone cold sober. "Can I ask you something weird?" he asked, his voice rough. "Since when do you ask for permission?" "Since," he trailed off. He took a breath and looked directly into my eyes. "Do you feel it?" "Feel what?" "The electricity." He made a frustrated gesture. "Like static. Whenever I get close to you. Do you feel that?" My heart slammed against my ribs. "Ty." "Because I feel it," he confessed, the words rushing out now. "I feel it right now. My hands are literally tingling. It's the weirdest feeling. I thought it was just the alcohol on Friday, but it's not. It's happening now." He reached out and grabbed my knee. His grip was hard, desperate. "Tell me you don't feel it, Leo. Tell me I'm crazy and I'll drop it. I'll never touch you again." I looked at him. I looked at his hand on my knee, the white-knuckled grip. I looked at his chest, rising and falling rapidly. I couldn't lie. "Not about this." "I feel it," I whispered. Tyler let out a breath that sounded like a groan. "Okay," he said. "Okay." He moved. He didn't stand up. Instead, he rose to his knees, moving between my legs. He placed his hands on the couch cushions on either side of my hips, trapping me. He was eye level with me now. "I need to check something," he said, intense focus in his eyes. "Check what?" "If it's just my hands," he whispered. "Or if it's everywhere." He didn't wait for an answer. He leaned forward and pressed his chest directly against mine. It was overwhelming. The heat. The hardness. Through my thin compression shirt and his sweaty skin, I could feel the frantic thudding of his heart. It was beating in perfect sync with mine. Fast. Terrified. Excited. He didn't use his hands. He just pressed his torso against me, grinding slowly, testing the friction, testing the sensation. He closed his eyes, his head dropping to my shoulder. "God," he breathed against my neck. "Leo, your chest, it's so hot." "Ty," I gasped, my hands coming up to grip his shoulders. I didn't know if I was trying to push him away or pull him closer. "What are you doing?" "You're straight." He laughed against my skin, a vibration that went straight to my core. "I know," he muttered. He pulled back just an inch, staring at my mouth. "I'm straight. I am. But," he moved one hand from the cushion and placed it flat over my heart. "But my hands," he whispered, "they don't seem to care what I think." He squeezed my pec, his thumb dragging agonizingly slow over the muscle. "And neither do yours." I looked down. My hands were gripping his bare shoulders, so tight my knuckles were white. I wasn't pushing him away. I was holding on for dear life. "This is a bad idea," I said weakly. "Probably," Tyler agreed. He leaned in closer. "But I can't stop. I tried, Leo. I swear I tried for 3 days. But I need to know." "Know what?" "What you taste like." The air left the room. Tyler didn't give me a chance to respond. He didn't give me a chance to think about rule number 3. He surged forward, his hand sliding up my chest to grip the back of my neck, and he crushed his lips against mine. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was a collision. It was messy, desperate, and filled with years of unspoken tension. It was the taste of coffee and salt and confusion. For a second, I froze. My brain screamed stop. But then Tyler groaned, his other hand finding my chest again, kneading, possessing, and my brain shut off. I opened my mouth, allowing him in, and the world dissolved. End of part 2. Part 3, the exposure therapy experiment. The kiss ended not with a bang, but with a gasp. Tyler ripped himself away from me like I was radioactive. He stumbled back, his chest heaving, his lips swollen and red, proof of the crime we had just committed. He looked at me, then at his own hands, then back at me. The panic in his eyes was so raw, so terrified, it felt like a physical blow to my gut. He choked out. I didn't. He didn't finish the sentence. He couldn't, because we both knew he did. He had initiated it. He had devoured it. "Ty," I started reaching out. "Don't," he snapped, backing toward the door. "Don't come near me." He grabbed his keys off the counter with shaking hands and fled. The door slammed shut, leaving me alone in the silence of the apartment, the taste of him still lingering on my tongue, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against the very spot on my chest he had been fondling seconds ago. Tyler didn't come home that night, or the next. For 48 hours, I lived in a ghost town. His gym bag was gone. His toothbrush was missing. I texted him, "Are you okay? We need to talk, . But they remained undelivered. I oscillated between fury and heartbreak. Part of me wanted to change the locks. How dare he? How dare he kiss me like I was the only oxygen in the room, and then run away like I was a monster. But the other part of me, the part that had been secretly in love with him since freshman year, was terrified that I had lost him forever. On the third night, a Tuesday, the rain was lashing against the windows. I was sitting on the couch, that couch, trying to focus on a textbook, but reading the same sentence over and over again. The lock clicked. My stomach dropped to the floor. Tyler walked in. He looked terrible. He was soaked to the bone, his hair plastered to his forehead. He hadn't shaved in 3 days, leaving a dark shadow of stubble on his jaw. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept a wink since he ran out that door. He didn't look at me. He toed off his wet shoes, hung up his jacket, and walked straight into the kitchen. I heard the fridge open, the hiss of a soda can opening. I didn't move. I waited. Finally, he walked into the living room. He didn't sit. He stood in the center of the room, gripping the soda can so hard the aluminum crinkled. "I'm not gay," he said. It wasn't a greeting. It was a statement. A desperate, defensive opening argument. I closed my book slowly. "Okay, I'm serious, Leo," he said, finally looking at me. His eyes were bloodshot. "I went to my brother's place. I thought about it. I thought about it a lot. I like women. I've always liked women. Sarah, she's great. I like her." "Okay," I repeated, my voice calm despite the storm inside me. "So, Friday night and Sunday night, those were just mistakes." "Glitches," Tyler corrected instantly. "Weird brain glitches. We spend too much time together. You're objectively attractive, I guess. And I've been stressed. It's just crossed wires. Misplaced affection." "Misplaced affection," I echoed. "Is that what you call tonguing your roommate?" Tyler flinched. "Don't call it that. That's what it was, Ty." He paced the room, running a hand through his damp hair. "It's the curiosity. That's all it is. It's like when you're on a diet and you see a donut. You obsess over it. Not because you even want the donut, but because you tell yourself you can't have it. It becomes this big, mysterious thing." I watched him justify this, watched him build this elaborate mental fortress to protect his fragile heterosexuality. It hurt. It hurt so much I wanted to scream. But I stayed quiet. "So," he stopped pacing and turned to me. "I have a theory." "A theory?" "Exposure therapy." I raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? If I—" He swallowed hard, his gaze dropping to my chest for a split second before snapping back up. "If I just do it, if I touch you, if I get it out of my system, my brain will realize it's not a big deal. It will realize it's just skin and muscle, and you're just Leo. And then the obsession will go away. The electricity will stop." I stared at him, dumbfounded. "You want to use me as a lab rat to prove you're straight?" "No." He looked horrified. "No, not like that. I need to normalize it. Please, Leo. I'm going crazy. I can't sleep. I close my eyes and I just feel. I feel your heartbeat. It's driving me insane. Help me fix it. Please." He looked so desperate, so broken. And because I was a fool, and because rule number 3, do not fall in love with Tyler, was already shattered into a million pieces, I caved. "Fine," I whispered. "Test your theory." The experiment began immediately. Tyler sat next to me on the couch. He didn't sprawl out like he used to. He sat stiffly, like he was about to take a calculus exam. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "Just skin. Just muscle." He reached out. His hand trembled slightly as it approached me. He laid his palm flat on my chest, right over my heart. The reaction was instantaneous. My breath hitched. His pupil dilated. "See," he whispered, his voice shaky. "Whatever. It's just a chest. You do bench presses. It's firm. That's it." He was lying. I could feel the heat radiating from his palm, seeping through my shirt, branding me. He wasn't just touching me, he was clinging to me. "Is it working?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Are you bored yet?" "I'm getting there," he lied. His thumb began that familiar, maddening stroke against my pec, rubbing circles, digging in slightly. "It's just tactile fascination. I appreciate the anatomy. You're an engineering major, Ty. You don't know anything about anatomy." "Shut up," he murmured, no real bite in his tone. He moved closer. He shifted so his knee was pressing against mine. His other hand came up, resting on my shoulder, his fingers slipping under the collar of my shirt to touch the bare skin there. "Your skin is hot," he noted, his voice dropping an octave. "You run hot. That's why it feels intense. It's just thermodynamics." "Thermodynamics," I scoffed softly. "Right. Yeah." He leaned in. He was staring at my lips now. "And the other thing. The kissing." My heart hammered. "What about it?" "I probably built it up in my head." he reasoned, though he sounded like he was in a trance. It probably wasn't even that good. I was just surprised. If I do it again, sober, calm, it'll just be weird. And then I'll be over it. You want to kiss me again? For science, he whispered. To prove it means nothing. I should have said no. I should have punched him. But God help me. I wanted him to kiss me more than I wanted to breathe. Do it then, I challenged. Prove it. Tyler didn't hesitate. He leaned forward and pressed his lips to mine. It started slow. Clinical. Just lips touching lips. He kept his eyes open for a second, as if trying to analyze the data, before they fluttered shut. And then, the experiment failed. Tyler groaned, a low, guttural sound in his throat, and the clinical nature of the kiss evaporated. His hand on my chest clenched, grabbing my shirt, pulling me toward him. His mouth opened, his tongue seeking mine with a hunger that had nothing to do with science and everything to do with starvation. He pushed me back against the cushions, climbing over me, his weight heavy and perfect. He kissed me like he was angry, like he was fighting a war, and I was the prize. Ty. I gasped when he broke the kiss to breathe, burying his face in my neck. It's not working, he mumbled against my skin, biting lightly at my pulse point. Why isn't it working? Maybe your theory is wrong. I panted, my hands finding purchase in his hair. No, he insisted, lifting his head. His eyes were blown wide, dark with lust. I just need more data. I haven't checked everything. His hands moved to the hem of my shirt. Ty, let me see, he begged. I need to see it without the shirt. That's the problem. The mystery. If I see it, the magic goes away. I nodded, helpless to deny him. He pulled my shirt up and over my head, tossing it onto the floor. The air in the room was cool, but Tyler's gaze was scorching. He sat back on his heels, straddling my lap, and just looked. He looked at my chest, my stomach, the way my ribs expanded with every shallow breath I took. He reached out, tracing the definition of my pectorals with trembling fingers. He didn't say a word. He just touched. He mapped every inch of me, his expression shifting from analysis to something softer, something akin to worship. It's not fair, he whispered. What isn't? That you look like this, he said, his voice thick. That you feel like this. How am I supposed to ignore this? He leaned down, pressing a kiss to the center of my chest. Then another. Then another. I arched my back, a gasp tearing from my throat. Tyler, this isn't helping you be straight. I know, he groaned, his cheek resting against my bare skin, the rough stubble scratching me in the best way possible. He wrapped his arms around my waist, hugging me tight, his ear pressed over my heart. Just give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes to pretend I don't know what this means. Then I'll stop. We stayed like that for what felt like hours. Tyler, the straight football player, curled up on top of me, nuzzling my chest, listening to my heart, refusing to let go. The next week was a blur of confused, secret intimacy. We established a routine. A dangerous, intoxicating routine. During the day, we were roommates. We talked about classes, we ordered pizza, we played video games. We didn't touch. We barely made eye contact. But the moment the sun went down, the experiment resumed. Tyler would find me, sometimes on the couch. Sometimes he'd come into my room at 2 a.m., muttering that he couldn't sleep and needed to check something. He would crawl into my bed. He wouldn't take his clothes off. That was the line he drew, but he would take mine off. He needed skin contact. He claimed it was to desensitize himself, but it looked a lot like addiction. He would lay with his head on my chest, his hands splayed over my heart, and we would just exist. Sometimes we kissed. Dark, heavy, silent kisses that left us both breathless and aching. But mostly, he just held me. He treated my body like a security blanket he couldn't sleep without. I knew it was going to crash. I knew this bubble couldn't last. It popped on a Friday afternoon. I was at the campus library, studying with a group of friends. Among them was Mark, a guy from my art history class. Mark was openly gay, funny, and had been flirting with me for weeks. Tyler knew about Mark. He hated Mark. I was laughing at something Mark said. Mark reached out and touched my arm, a friendly, lingering touch on my bicep. You're hilarious, Leo, Mark said, leaning in close. Excuse me. The voice was ice cold. I looked up. Tyler was standing there. He had just come from practice. He was wearing his team gear, looking massive and intimidating. His eyes were laser-focused on Mark's hand on my arm. Tyler, I said, surprised. What are you doing here? I forgot my keys, he lied. He didn't look at me. He was staring at Mark. You're sitting in my seat. Mark blinked. There are plenty of chairs, man. That one, Tyler pointed at the chair next to me, is mine. The tension was instant. People at nearby tables looked up. Mark, sensing the hostility, slowly removed his hand from my arm and stood up. Okay, chill. I was just leaving anyway. See you later, Leo. Mark gave me a wink and walked away. Tyler watched him go, his jaw working furiously. He threw his bag down and sat in the chair Mark had vacated. He didn't say anything. He just sat there, fuming, radiating waves of anger. You didn't forget your keys, I whispered, leaning toward him. You texted me 10 minutes ago that you were at the gym. Tyler turned to me. His eyes were wild. Why was he touching you? He hissed. He was just being friendly, Ty. He wasn't being friendly. He was touching your arm. He was looking at your chest. Tyler's voice cracked on the word. I saw him looking. So, what if he was? I challenged, tired of his jealousy when he wouldn't even claim me. I'm single, aren't I? Maybe I like Mark. Maybe I want him to touch me. It was the wrong thing to say. Tyler's face went pale, then flushed with color. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Come with me, he commanded. What? No. I'm studying. Now, Leo. He grabbed my wrist, not gently, and pulled me up. He dragged me out of the library, ignoring the stares of the librarian and the other students. He didn't stop until we were outside, behind the brick wall of the annex, hidden from view. He pinned me against the wall. You don't let him touch you, Tyler growled, breathing hard. You don't let anyone touch you. Why not? I shouted back, pushing against his chest. You're straight, remember? You're just experimenting. You have Sarah. You don't get to tell me what to do. I don't care about Sarah. Tyler yelled, and the confession hung in the air between us. He froze, realizing what he said, but he didn't take it back. I don't care about Sarah, he repeated, his voice dropping to a desperate whisper. He stepped closer, pressing his body against mine, trapping me. He took my hand and forced it onto his own chest, right over his racing heart. Feel that, he demanded. I could feel it. It was beating so fast it scared me. That doesn't happen with Sarah, he said, staring into my eyes. That doesn't happen with anyone else. Only you. When you walk into a room. When I smell your hoodie. When I see some random guy put his hand on your arm, I want to punch a hole in the wall. Ty, the experiment isn't working, Leo, he admitted, his forehead resting against mine. He sounded defeated. I'm not getting bored. I'm getting worse. I'm getting obsessed. He reached down, his hand sliding under my shirt, finding skin. The contact made him shudder. I don't want anyone else touching this, he whispered, his thumb grazing my nipple, sending a shockwave through me. It's mine. Tell me it's mine. You can't have it both ways, I said, my voice shaking. You can't claim me and still pretend you're straight. You have to choose, Tyler. Right now. Are you straight, or are you mine? Tyler looked at me. The conflict in his eyes was a war zone. He looked at my lips. He looked at his hand under my shirt. He started. Hey, Tyler, coach is looking for you. A voice from around the corner. One of his teammates. Tyler jumped back, pulling his hand out from my shirt as if he'd been burned. He looked toward the corner, then back at me. The fear was back. The walls were slamming back up. I have to go, he whispered. Tyler, choose, I pleaded. I can't, he said, his voice breaking. I can't do this right now. And for the second time, he ran away. But this time, as I watched him go, I felt something shift. He wasn't running because he was confused anymore. He was running because he knew the truth, and the truth terrified him more than anything else in the world. He knew he belonged to me. He just didn't know if he was brave enough to admit it. End of part 3. Part 4. The sound of a locking door. The walk back from the library was the longest 20 minutes of my life. I walked alone. Tyler had run off, again, leaving me standing behind the brick annex with my heart in my throat and his scent still clinging to my hoodie. I didn't chase him this time. I didn't text him. I didn't cry. Something inside me had hardened. It was like a switch had been flipped. For weeks, I had been the passive participant in Tyler's confusion. I had let him touch me, hold me, kiss me, and then discard me whenever the reality of it got too scary for his straight guy worldview. I was his emotional support animal, his secret experiment, his late-night pacifier. But I wasn't his boyfriend. When I got back to the apartment, it was empty. Tyler's gym bag was gone. I walked into my bedroom, closed the door, and for the first time since we moved in together, I turned the small brass lock on the handle. Click. The sound was tiny, but in the silence of the apartment, it sounded like a gunshot. It was a boundary, a physical wall to match the emotional one I was finally building. No more late-night visits. No more checking my heart rate. No more exposure therapy. If Tyler wanted to be straight, I was going to let him. I was going to let him be so straight it hurt. The first night was brutal. I lay in bed, staring at the dark, listening. Around 2 a.m., I heard the front door open. Heavy footsteps. The fridge opening and closing. Then, the footsteps moved down the hallway. They stopped outside my door. I held my breath, my hands gripping the sheets so tight my knuckles ached. I could feel him standing there. I could almost hear his breathing. The doorknob turned slowly. It hit the lock mechanism. Thud. He tried it again, a little harder, as if he couldn't believe it was actually locked. Jiggle. Thud. Silence. He stood there for a long time. Maybe 5 minutes. I wondered what he was thinking. I wondered if he was angry or relieved, or if he felt the same crushing weight in his chest that I felt in mine. Eventually, he let go of the handle. I heard his forehead rest against the wood of the door, a soft, defeated thump. Then he walked away. For the next 3 days, we lived in a cold war. Tyler looked like a walking corpse. The dark circles under his eyes were bruises. He stopped shaving. He stopped meal prepping. I saw him eating dry cereal out of the box, standing over the sink, staring at nothing. I wasn't much better, but I had pride keeping me upright. I stopped wearing the tight shirts. I wore baggy hoodies. I avoided the common areas. When we did cross paths, I was polite but distant. Hey, excuse me. We're out of milk. It was killing him. I could see it. Every time I walked into a room, his head would snap up. His eyes would lock onto me, tracking my movements with a starving intensity. He looked at my chest constantly, not with the curiosity he had before, but with a morning longing. He looked like an addict going through withdrawal. On Thursday evening, the tension finally snapped. I was in the bathroom, getting ready. Mark had texted me again. He wanted to get drinks. I hadn't said yes yet, but I was going to. I needed to get out of this apartment. I needed to be around someone who looked at me and didn't see a confusing mistake. I was fixing my hair in the mirror when Tyler appeared in the doorway behind me. He didn't say anything. He just watched me via the reflection. He was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed over his massive chest, his biceps straining against his shirt. He looked dangerous. "You're going out," he said. His voice was gravel, rough and unused. "Yes," I replied, applying a bit of styling gel. I didn't turn around. "With Mark. Maybe. Or just by myself. Does it matter?" "It matters," he muttered. "Why?" I spun around to face him. "Why does it matter, Tyler? You made your choice. You ran away. You have Sarah. You have your team. You have your straight life. What I do on a Thursday night is none of your business anymore." Tyler pushed off the doorframe and stepped into the small bathroom. The space instantly shrank. He was too big, too hot, too much. "I don't have Sarah," he said quietly. I froze. "What?" I ended it. My heart skipped a beat, but I forced my face to remain neutral. "When?" "Tuesday. After the library." He looked down at his hands, then back at me. His eyes were unguarded for the first time in days. I went to her place. She tried to kiss me. She put her hands on my chest. He let out a shaky breath, and I almost threw up. All I could feel was wrongness. It felt like her hands were sandpaper. Because they weren't your hands. They weren't heavy enough. They weren't hot enough. I couldn't do it, Leo. I couldn't pretend for one more second. "So you broke up with her," I said, my voice soft. "I told her I was in love with someone else," he confessed. The air left my lungs. "Ty. But I didn't tell her who," he added quickly, shame coloring his cheeks. "I couldn't. I ran. Again." He looked at me with devastating vulnerability. "I'm a coward, Leo. I know that. But I broke up with her. That has to count for something, right?" "It counts," I admitted. "But it's not enough." Tyler flinched. "What do you mean? Breaking up with her just means you're single. It doesn't mean you want me. It just means you don't want her." I stepped around him, trying to leave the bathroom. "I can't be your fallback option while you figure out your sexuality crisis, Tyler. It hurts too much." I tried to squeeze past him to get to the hallway. He didn't let me pass. He didn't grab me. He just shifted his body, blocking the exit. He slammed his hand against the wall next to my head, boxing me in. "You are not a fallback option," he growled. "You are the only option. Don't you get it? There is no one else. There is nothing else. My brain is just static. Until you're in the room. Then why did you run?" I shouted, losing my composure. "Why did you leave me at the library? Why did you make me lock my door?" "Because I was terrified," Tyler shouted back. "Because looking at you, wanting you, it destroys everything I thought I was. I've been Tyler the quarterback, Tyler the straight guy, Tyler the ladies' man my entire life. And then you look at me with those eyes, and you let me touch your chest, and suddenly I don't know who the hell I am anymore. And that is terrifying. He was breathing hard, his chest heaving against me. We were inches apart. I locked the door because I needed to protect myself, I whispered. I can't let you keep touching me if you're going to hate yourself for it in the morning. I don't hate myself, Tyler said, his voice dropping to a desperate rasp. I hate that I can't stop. I hate that right now, even though we're fighting, even though you're mad at me, all I want to do is put my hands on you. He raised his hands. They hovered in the air between us. Trembling. Tell me not to, he begged. Tell me to move, and I will let you go to Mark. I will let you walk out that door, and I won't say a word. I looked at him. I looked at the agony in his eyes. He wasn't playing a game. He wasn't experimenting. He was breaking. I'm not going to tell you what to do, Ty, I said. You have to decide. Tyler stared at me for an eternity. The clock in the hallway ticked. A car drove by outside. Then, slowly, deliberately, he lowered his hands. But he didn't step aside. He reached for the hem of my shirt. He didn't rip it off. He didn't rush. He simply gripped the fabric and looked me in the eye, asking for silent permission. I didn't stop him. I couldn't. He lifted the shirt. The cool bathroom air hit my skin, followed immediately by the scorching heat of his palms. He groaned as skin met skin. It was a sound of pure relief, like a man dying of thirst finally drinking water. His hands splayed over my pectorals, his fingers digging in, claiming me. He pulled me forward until our chests collided. Mine, he whispered against my lips. You're mine. I don't care if I'm straight, gay, or insane. You're mine. He kissed me. This wasn't like the first kiss, which was surprised. It wasn't like the second, which was desperate. This kiss was possessive. It was angry and tender and overwhelming. He kissed me like he was trying to breathe me in. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him down, melting into him. The wall behind me was hard, but Tyler was harder. Don't go to Mark, he mumbled against my mouth, his hands sliding down to grip my waist, lifting me slightly so I was pressed even firmer against him. Don't you dare go to him. I was never going to go, I admitted. Tyler pulled back slightly. A flash of that old cocky grin appeared, though it was softened by emotion. Good. He didn't put me down. Instead, he turned, carrying me out of the bathroom. Where are we going? I gasped. Your room, he said. The door is unlocked now. He carried me into my bedroom and kicked the door shut behind us. He didn't throw me on the bed. He set me down gently, but immediately crowded me, backing me up until the back of my knees hit the mattress. But then he stopped. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. He looked at me, standing there shirtless, flushed, waiting, and he took a deep breath. I need to show you something, he said. Show me what? Tyler grabbed the hem of his own t-shirt. With one fluid motion, he pulled it over his head and tossed it aside. I had seen Tyler shirtless 1,000 times. At the gym, at the beach, in the apartment. But I had never seen him like this. Not with this context. Not with this tension. His body was a masterpiece of architecture. Broad shoulders, defined abs, the V-taper that disappeared into his sweatpants. But what caught my attention was his chest. It was rising and falling rapidly, his skin flushed. He stepped closer to me. He took my hand. You're always the one being touched, he whispered. You're the one being tested. It's not fair. He lifted my hand and placed it on his own chest, directly over his heart. The impact was shocking. His skin was burning hot. The muscle under my palm jumped. And his heart was hammering so fast it felt like a hummingbird's wings. It was beating faster than mine. Feel that? He asked, his eyes locking onto mine. Yeah, that's not fear, he said. That's you. It only does that for you. He pressed his hand over mine, trapping my palm against his pec. He moved my hand slightly, mimicking the way he always touched me, rubbing the muscle, exploring the texture. I want you to touch me, he confessed, his voice thick with need. I want you to look at me the way I look at you. I want to know what it feels like to be on the other side of this. I didn't need to be told twice. My other hand came up, landing on his other pec. I traced the lines of his muscles, feeling the strength beneath the skin. Tyler's head fell back, a sharp hiss escaping his teeth. His hips bucked forward involuntarily. God, he choked out. Is that what it feels like for you? Yes, I whispered, stepping closer, until our bare chests were brushing against each other. It feels electric. It feels like I'm on fire, he corrected. He looked down at me, his eyes dark and heavy. I'm not experimenting anymore, Leo. I'm done testing. I just want this. I want you. Say it again, I demanded softly. I want you. He grabbed my waist and pulled me down onto the bed with him. We landed in a tangle of limbs and laughter and heavy breaths. The world outside the room ceased to exist. There was no football team, no Sarah, no labels. Just skin on skin, heat on heat. For the first time, Tyler wasn't taking. He was giving. He let me explore him. He let me kiss his neck, his jaw, his chest. Every time I touched him, he shivered, his tough guy persona dissolving into pure sensation. Leo, he gasped, his hands gripping the sheets as I kissed the spot right over his racing heart. I think I'm in trouble. I looked up at him, smiling. Why? He looked at me with a mixture of terror and absolute clarity. Because I don't think I can ever go back to how it was before. I think I'm ruined for anyone else. Good, I said, climbing up his body to kiss him again. Because I'm not planning on letting you go back. The next morning, the sun streamed through the blinds, hitting me right in the face. I groaned and rolled over, reaching out instinctively. My hand hit warm skin. Solid muscle. My eyes snapped open. Tyler was there. He was asleep, face buried in the pillow, one arm thrown possessively over my waist. We were tangled together, legs intertwined. It hadn't been a dream. The breakup with Sarah, the bathroom confrontation, the night spent exploring every inch of each other. It was real. I lay there for a moment, just watching him breathe. He looked peaceful. The stress lines were gone from his forehead. Then, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced over. It wasn't a text. It was a notification from Instagram, tagged in a photo by Sarah_B. Single and ready to mingle. Hashtag breakup, hashtag moving in. And then another buzz. A text message from Captain Mike, the football team captain. Mike, yo Ty, heard about you and Sarah. Tough break. Boys are hitting the club tonight to get your mind off it. You in. Also, Coach wants to talk to you about your focus lately. Tyler stirred. He groaned, his eyes fluttering open. He blinked at me, confused for a second, before a lazy, satisfied smile spread across his face. Morning, he rasped, his voice deep with sleep. Morning, I smiled back. He reached out, pulling me closer, nuzzling his face into my neck. What time is it? Time for you to wake up. Your phone is blowing up. Tyler groaned into my skin. Don't care. Throw it out the window. It's Mike, I said. And Sarah posted about the breakup. Tyler stiffened. He stopped nuzzling me. The reality of the outside world was crashing back in. He pulled back slightly, looking at the phone on the nightstand like it was a bomb. Right, he said, his voice losing some of its warmth. The team. Ty? I asked, sensing the shift. He sat up, rubbing his face with his hands. The glorious vulnerability of the night before was being replaced by the armor of the day. If the team finds out, he muttered, more to himself than me. If Coach thinks I'm distracted because of this, he looked down at me. I was still lying in bed, bare-chested, looking like exactly what I was. A guy who had just spent the night with another guy. They can't know Leo, Tyler said. His eyes were pleading, but his jaw was set. Not yet. I can't deal with the locker room talk right now. The rumors. It would kill my season. I sat up slowly, the sheet pooling at my waist. The cold air hit my chest, reminding me of the distance that was already creeping back in. So what are we? I asked. A secret. Just for a little while, Tyler said, reaching for my hand. Just until I figure out how to handle this. We can be us in here. Inside the apartment. But outside, we have to be roommates. Please, Leo. I need time. I looked at his hand holding mine. I looked at the fear creeping back into his eyes. He had broken up with Sarah. Yes. He had admitted he wanted me, yes. But the world was bigger than our bedroom. Okay, I said quietly, pulling my hand away to stand up. We're roommates. Leo, don't be like that, he started. I'm not being like anything, Ty. You asked for time. I'm giving you time. I walked to the closet and pulled out a fresh shirt. But secrets have a way of getting out, especially when you look at me the way you do. I pulled the shirt on, covering the marks he had left on my skin. Get dressed, I said, turning back to him with a sad smile. We have class, and you have a reputation to uphold. Tyler watched me, his expression tortured. He knew he had hurt me. He knew he was asking for too much. But he didn't stop me. As I walked out of the room, leaving him alone in the bed we had shared, I had a sinking feeling. We had survived the denial phase. But I wasn't sure we would survive the secret phase. End of Part 4. Part 5, Shadows and Spotlights. Living with Tyler became a masterclass in psychological warfare. For 2 weeks, we lived 2 completely different lives. By day, we were just roommates. We performed our roles with agonizing precision. If we passed each other on campus, Tyler would give me a curt nod or a sup, Leo, his eyes barely meeting mine before he turned back to his teammates, laughing loud and hard at their jokes. He walked with that swagger, that confident, untouchable football star strut, that screamed I have nothing to hide. But by night, the apartment became a pressure cooker. The moment the front door locked and the blinds were drawn, the mask shattered. Tyler wouldn't just touch me, he would collapse into me. It was as if holding back all day physically drained him. He would pull me onto the couch, into his bed, against the kitchen counter, his hands desperate and roaming. He needed constant contact. He needed his hand on my chest, feeling my heartbeat, grounding himself. I missed you, he would whisper into my neck at 2 a.m., his body wrapped around mine like a vine. I hated today. I hated ignoring you. Then don't, I would whisper back, tracing the spine of his back. I have to, he would reply, his voice tightening. Just a little longer. Just until the season is over. It was intoxicating. It was passionate. But it was also suffocating. I was beginning to feel less like his boyfriend and more like his dirty little secret. The breaking point came in the form of the mid-season gala. It wasn't a fancy black tie event. It was a massive mixer hosted by the athletic department at a local venue. Everyone was going. The football team, the cheer squad, the alumni. And because the architecture department had designed the new stadium wing, we were invited too. You're going? Tyler asked the morning of the party. We were in the kitchen. He was eating oatmeal, standing away from the window so no one could see us together. Yeah, I said, pouring coffee. The whole studio is going. It's good for networking. Tyler's jaw tightened. It's going to be crowded. A lot of the team will be there. So be careful, he muttered. Don't look at me. I froze, the coffee pot hovering in midair. Excuse me. You know what I mean, he said, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. You have this look. When you look at me, like you know something no one else knows. If you look at me like that in front of Coach or Mike, they're going to figure it out. I set the coffee pot down with a loud clatter. So I'm not allowed to look at my roommate? I asked, feeling the anger bubbling up. Should I wear a blindfold, Tyler? Or should I just pretend I don't know you? Just keep your distance, he pleaded, reaching out to touch my arm, but stopping himself when he heard a car drive by outside. He pulled his hand back. Please, Leo. For me. I looked at his retracted hand. The space between us felt like a canyon. Fine, I said coldly. I'll keep my distance. The venue was packed. Music thumped against the walls, the air smelled of expensive perfume and cheap beer, and the lighting was dim and moody. I arrived with my architecture friends. We stuck to the bar area, talking about thesis deadlines, but my eyes kept drifting to the VIP section. Tyler was there. He was the center of gravity. Wearing a fitted button-down that strained against his chest and dark jeans, he looked devastatingly handsome. He was surrounded by people, his teammates, alumni slapping his back, and girls. Lots of girls. I watched as a brunette in a red dress placed her hand on his bicep. She whispered something in his ear. Tyler laughed, that fake, loud laugh I had learned to recognize, and leaned in to hear her better. He didn't pull away. He didn't tell her he was seeing someone. He played the part perfectly. He looks happy. I turned. Mark was standing next to me, holding 2 drinks. He looked good, sharp, artistic, wearing a blazer over a graphic tee. Hey, Mark, I said, taking the drink he offered. He's performing. Mark looked at Tyler, then back at me. He knew. I hadn't explicitly told him about me and Tyler, but Mark was observant. He had seen the way Tyler dragged me out of the library. He saw the tension. Performance is exhausting, Mark said, taking a sip of his drink. You know what's not exhausting? Authenticity. He smiled at me, a genuine, warm smile that didn't hide anything. Do you want to dance? Mark asked. Or just stand here and glare at the quarterback? I looked at Tyler again. The brunette was now touching his chest. Her hand was flat against the shirt, right over his heart, my spot. Tyler didn't stop her. He was smiling at her, charming her, protecting his precious secret. A spike of jealousy, hot and sharp, pierced through me. I want to dance, I told Mark. We moved to the dance floor. The music was loud, the bass vibrating in the floorboards. Mark was a good dancer, loose, fun, uninhibited. We danced close, but not inappropriate. Just 2 guys having fun. But I made sure of one thing. I made sure I was directly in Tyler's line of sight. It took about 3 minutes. I saw Tyler's head snap up. He looked over the shoulder of the brunette. His eyes locked onto me. Then, they shifted to Mark, who was laughing and shouting something in my ear. Tyler's smile vanished. His face went stone cold. Even from across the room, I could feel the temperature drop. He stopped listening to the girl. He just stared. His eyes tracked Mark's hand as it landed on my shoulder to steady himself during a jump. I stared right back at Tyler. I didn't look away. I gave him the look he had forbidden. The look that said, I know you. And you hate this. Tyler turned abruptly, saying something to his teammates, and started pushing his way through the crowd. He wasn't coming toward the dance floor. He was heading toward the restrooms. I waited a beat, then leaned into Mark. I'll be right back. Everything okay? Mark asked. Yeah, just need air. I didn't go for air. I followed Tyler. The venue's restrooms were located down a long, dimly lit corridor away from the main noise. I turned the corner and saw him. Tyler wasn't in the restroom. He was pacing in the hallway, his hands balled into fists, his chest heaving. When he saw me, he stopped. He looked furious. What are you doing? He hissed, stepping forward and crowding me against the wall. Dancing, I said calmly, though my heart was racing. I'm having a good time. Unlike you, who looks miserable. You're dancing with him. Tyler spat the word like poison. You're letting him touch you. In front of everyone. He touched my shoulder, Tyler. Get a grip. I told you to keep your distance. I did. I was on the dance floor. You were in the VIP section letting some girl paw at your chest. I shouted back, my voice echoing in the empty hall. Tyler flinched. That was nothing. She's a booster's daughter. I was being polite. You were being single. I pushed him back. That's what you were doing. You were playing the single, straight quarterback. And I'm supposed to what? Stand in the corner and wait for you to come home so you can sneak into my bed in the dark. It's not like that, Tyler argued, his voice cracking. He reached for me. Leo, stop. You know it's not like that. He tried to grab my waist, tried to pull me into the shadows where no one could see us. He wanted to kiss me. I could see it in his eyes. He wanted to mark me, to overwrite Mark's touch with his own. I slapped his hands away. The sound was sharp and shocking. Tyler froze, his hands hovering in the air. Don't, I warned, my voice shaking. Do not touch me in the dark if you won't hold my hand in the light. Tyler looked destroyed. Leo, I can't. You know I can't. The draft. The team. My family. I can't just blow it all up. Then let me go, I whispered. If you can't be with me, then let me be with someone who can. Mark likes me, Tyler. He actually sees me. He doesn't want to hide me. He doesn't love you. Tyler shouted. The silence that followed was heavy. Tyler's eyes widened. He breathed hard, realizing what he had just admitted. He doesn't love you, Tyler repeated, quieter this time, his voice trembling. I do. My heart stopped. He had said it. Finally. The words I had been rule number 3 ing myself against for years. You love me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Yes, Tyler choked out, tears welling in his eyes. He stepped closer, disregarding the risk, disregarding the hallway. He grabbed my hand and pressed it to his chest, right over his frantically beating heart. I love you. I'm terrified, and I'm a mess, and I'm bad at this. But I love you. My heart beats out of my chest every time you're near me. It doesn't do that for anyone else. He pressed his forehead against mine. Please don't go back to him. Please don't dance with him. It kills me, Leo. It literally feels like I'm dying. I looked at him. I looked at the man I loved, breaking apart in a hallway because he was trapped between who he was and who he wanted to be. If you love me, I said softly, keeping my hand on his chest, then you have to stop hiding us. Not all at once, but you have to start. I can't live in the shadows forever, Ty. I won't. I know, Tyler sniffed, closing his eyes. I know. Suddenly, the door to the main area swung open. Laughter spilled into the hallway. Light flooded in. Tyler and I sprang apart instantly. I yanked my hand from his chest. He took a step back, turning his face away to hide the emotion. It was Mike, the team captain, and 2 other defensive linemen. They stumbled in, laughing, beers in hand. They stopped when they saw us. Ty. Mike blinked, looking from Tyler to me. The atmosphere in the hallway was thick with tension. Tyler looked wrecked, red-eyed, flushed, guilty. I looked just as shaken. Mike's eyes narrowed. He wasn't stupid. He looked at the distance between us, which was too big to be casual, but too small to be strangers. He looked at Tyler's clenched fists. Everything good here? Mike asked, his voice losing its drunken slur. Tyler swallowed hard. He looked at me for a split second, a look of pure panic, and then he looked at Mike. The mask slammed back down. Yeah, Tyler said, his voice rough. Just arguing about the rent. Leo's moving out. I felt the blood drain from my face. Mike looked at me. Moving out. Yeah, Tyler continued, laughing nervously, avoiding my eyes. He found a better place. We were just hashing out the details. Right, Leo? He was doing it again. He was throwing me under the bus to save himself. He was erasing us. He loves me, I thought bitterly, but not enough. I looked at Tyler. I saw the desperation in his eyes, begging me to play along, begging me to protect him one last time. But I was done protecting him. No, I said clearly. Tyler's head snapped toward me. Mike looked confused. No, Mike asked. I'm not moving out because of the rent, I said, my voice steady, locking eyes with Tyler. I'm moving out because I can't live with a liar anymore. The silence was deafening. Whoa, one of the linemen muttered. Leo, Tyler warned, his voice low and dangerous. Don't worry, Ty, I said, stepping away from the wall. I won't tell them your secret. I'm not that cruel, but I'm done keeping it for you. I brushed past Mike and the others. Leo, wait, Tyler called out. I didn't stop. I walked down the hallway, back into the noise of the party. I found Mark on the dance floor. Ready to go? I asked Mark. Mark looked at my face, pale, determined, devastatingly sad, and nodded immediately. Yeah, let's get out of here. As we walked toward the exit, I felt a hand grab my arm. I spun around, expecting Tyler. It wasn't Tyler. It was Sarah. She looked furious. She had clearly seen the scene in the hallway, or at least enough of it to put the pieces together. You, she hissed, pointing a manicured finger at my chest. It was you, wasn't it? There's someone else? I looked at her. I looked at the party. I looked at the exit where my freedom waited. Ask Tyler, I said. And I walked out the door, leaving Tyler alone in the venue to face his ex-girlfriend, his suspicious teammates, and the wreckage of the lie he had tried so hard to build. End of Part 5. Part 6. The Heartbeat You Can't Hide. I didn't go to Mark's place. I didn't go to a bar. I went back to the apartment. It was a form of masochism, I guess. Or maybe it was just practicality. If I was really leaving, if I was really going to move out and end this torture, I needed my things. The apartment was silent. It smelled like us, like coffee and Tyler's body wash and old books. It smelled like the home I was about to lose. I dragged my suitcase out of the closet. The sound of the zipper was loud in the empty room. I started throwing clothes in indiscriminately. Hoodies, jeans, that stupid black compression shirt Tyler liked so much. I grabbed it, balling it up in my fist, fighting the urge to scream. I'm moving out because I can't live with a liar. I had said it. I had walked away. It was the bravest thing I had ever done, and it felt like I had ripped my own heart out of my chest and left it on the floor of that gala venue. It was 1 a.m. when I heard the key turn in the lock. I froze. I was standing in the middle of the living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes. The door opened. Tyler walked in. He looked like he had been through a war. His button-down shirt was untucked and missing a button. His hair was a disaster. His eyes were red-rimmed, wild, and desperate. He was breathing hard, as if he had run the entire way home. He stopped when he saw the boxes. He saw the suitcase. He saw me, standing there with my car keys already in my hand. You're packing, he said. His voice was broken, a jagged whisper. I told you I was, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I don't make empty threats, Tyler. Leo, wait. He took a step forward, stumbling slightly. He looked exhausted. Please, just stop packing. Just for 5 minutes. Why? I snapped, throwing a book into a box with a loud thud. So you can come up with another lie? What did you tell them after I left? That I was crazy? That I was drunk? Did you and Sarah have a good laugh about it? Sarah is gone, Tyler said. I looked up. What? She started screaming, Tyler said, running a shaking hand over his face. After you left, she started shouting. She was going to tell everyone. She was yelling at Mike, telling him that his quarterback was A. He flinched, unable to say the slur she had probably used. My stomach twisted. Ty, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left you there with her. No. Tyler shook his head violently. No. You should have left. You should have left a long time ago. I deserved it. He walked closer, navigating through the maze of boxes until he was standing right in front of me. He didn't touch me. He held his hands up, palms open, showing me he wasn't going to grab me, wasn't going to trap me. He was offering himself up. She tried to out me, Leo. She looked at Mike, and she opened her mouth to say it. And what happened? I whispered, terrified of the answer. Tyler swallowed hard. Tears welled in his eyes, spilling over onto his cheeks. I beat her to it. The world stopped. The air in the room vanished. You what? I interrupted her, Tyler said, his voice gaining a sudden, fierce strength. I looked at Mike. I looked at the guys. And I told them. I said, she's right. I'm in love with him. I stared at him. My knees felt weak. You told the team, you're in love with me? I told them everything. Tyler rushed on, the words pouring out like a dam breaking. I told them I lied about the rent. I told them I lied about Sarah. I told them that the reason I've been playing like crap all week is because I was terrified of losing the only person who actually matters. He took a step closer, invading my space, but this time I didn't back away. Mike asked if I was serious, Tyler whispered. He asked if I was willing to risk the captaincy for some roommate. And what did you say? Tyler finally reached out. He took my hand, the hand holding my car keys, and gently pried his fingers around mine until the keys dropped to the floor with a jingle. I told him, Tyler said, staring into my soul, that you aren't my roommate. I told him you're my future. And if the team can't handle that, then I don't want to be captain. A sob broke from my throat. I couldn't help it. The relief, the shock, the overwhelming love washed over me like a tidal wave. Ty. Mike didn't say anything for a long time, Tyler admitted, his thumb brushing away a tear that had fallen on my cheek. Then he just nodded. He said, "See you at practice on Monday, Cap," and he walked away. He's okay with it. I think he needs time, Tyler said. They all do. It's going to be hard, Leo. There are going to be whispers. It's going to be messy. I might lose friends. I might lose the scouts. He paused, taking a deep, shuddering breath. He took both of my hands and pulled them up. He placed them on his chest, both palms flat against his sternum, directly over his heart. It was beating. God, it was beating so fast. It was a chaotic, thunderous rhythm that vibrated through my bones. Feel that? Tyler whispered. I feel it. It's terrified, he admitted. I am absolutely terrified right now. I don't know what happens tomorrow. He leaned his forehead against mine, his eyes closing. But for the first time in my life, I'm not hiding it. I'm not pretending it's not happening. My heart is beating like this because I love you, Leo. And I don't care who knows it anymore. He opened his eyes. They were clear. No confusion. No testing. Just Tyler. So please, he begged, his voice cracking. Please don't move out. Unpack the boxes. Stay. Stay with me and let me figure out how to do this right. Let me take you on a real date. Let me hold your hand in the grocery store. Just stay. I looked at the boxes. I looked at the suitcase. Then I looked at Tyler, the boy who had just burned his entire world down just to keep me in it. I'm not going anywhere, I whispered. Tyler let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. He wrapped his arms around me, lifting me off the floor, burying his face in my neck. He held me so tight I could barely breathe, and I held him back just as hard. I love you, he murmured into my skin. I love you so much. I love you too, Ty. He pulled back, just enough to look at me. He grinned, a real, dazzling, burden-free grin. Now, he said, are you going to kiss me, or do I have to ask permission? Shut up, I laughed, and I pulled him down to me. The kiss wasn't desperate. It wasn't hurried. It was slow. It was deliberate. It was the taste of victory. It felt like coming home. 2 months later. The campus coffee shop was crowded. It was a Tuesday morning, prime caffeine time for students. I was sitting at a corner table, my laptop open, working on my final thesis presentation. The noise of the shop was a comforting hum in the background. Large iced Americano, extra shot. A cup was placed on the table next to my laptop. I looked up. Tyler was standing there. He was wearing his team jacket. Yes, he was still on the team, and yes, he was still captain, and a backpack slung over one shoulder. Thanks, I smiled, reaching for the coffee. Tyler didn't sit down immediately. He stood there, looking around the shop. I saw a few people look at him. A few whispers. The gossip had spread, of course. The gay quarterback. The roommate scandal. Some people were cool. Some people were jerks. But most people just moved on. Tyler looked back at me. He saw me watching him. He smiled. He walked around the table and sat in the chair next to me. Not across from me, next to me. He leaned over, ostensibly to look at my screen. How's the thesis going? He asked. Good. Almost done. Good. He draped his arm over the back of my chair. It was a casual gesture, proprietary and comfortable. His hand rested on my shoulder, his thumb idly stroking the fabric of my shirt. Because I have a plan for us this weekend, he said, his voice low enough for just me, but loud enough that he wasn't whispering. My parents want to meet you. I choked on my coffee. Your parents? The conservative ones from Ohio. Yeah, Tyler grimaced slightly, but his hand squeezed my shoulder reassuringly. I told them. On the phone last night. And my mom cried. My dad was quiet. Tyler shrugged. But they didn't hang up. And they said if you're important to me, they want to meet you. I am terrified, I admitted. Don't be, Tyler grinned. He shifted, leaning in closer until our shoulders were pressed together. I told them you're the smart one. They'll love you. He reached out with his free hand. He didn't grab my hand. He placed his hand on my chest. Right there in the middle of the coffee shop. In front of the barista, the students, the world. He didn't grope. He just rested his palm there, over my heart, checking in, grounding himself. Besides, he whispered, his eyes soft and full of love, you have the best heart in the world. They'll see that. I covered his hand with mine, interlacing our fingers against my chest. I could feel my own heartbeat, steady, strong, and completely his. Okay, I said. Let's go meet the parents. Tyler leaned in and pressed a quick, soft kiss to my cheek. Ready when you are, babe. He turned back to his own coffee, taking a sip, completely unbothered by the stares. I watched him, this boy who had sworn he was straight, who had fought his own nature, and who had ultimately chosen love over fear. I went back to my thesis, typing with one hand, while my other hand held as tightly against my chest. Rule number 3 was broken, and it was the best thing I had ever done. The end.